Hey, welcome to the start of my video series. This video series will show you my learning progress in coding, specifically Java, for my personal project. And in this video, I will show you my learning progress the past 2 weeks, and let's just get straight into it and let's show you what I've done. So the first thing I learned was the very basics of coding, as this was really my first time doing this kind of thing, and it was all really new to me and it was kind of confusing at the start. So what I learned first was about classes and methods. And what classes and methods are is a class is an idea, a method is a helper to help execute it, and the main method is where you execute the idea. The next thing I learned was printing, and no, not in the general sense of printing with a printer. In coding, printing is how you show a message in the terminal or the result. So no, it is not printing a piece of paper. The next thing I learned were data types. Data types are attributes key to data that helps the computer understand how to interpret it. And here are some examples of primitive data types, which are the most common and simplest. First up, it is int. Int, or integers, are used to store, as the name implies, integers. Some examples of that are 5, 13, 31, etc. Next up are doubles, which are used to store non-integer numbers, such as 37.5, 3.1, etc. It can even be 30.0. Next up, we got strings. Strings are used to store any text or characters or numbers, but they have to be placed in quotation marks. Some examples of these are dogs, birds, flowers, and 81, for example. And you should note that you can put, as I said, you can put both text and numbers, which means you can put 81 in alphabet form and you can put 81 in number form. Next up are chars, which is spelled C-H-A-R, which stands for characters. As the name implies, it outputs or stores characters, and it can be either alphabets or numbers. And it can only store one at a time, which means, for example, A, B, 1, etc. And it is stored with a single quotation mark, not double quotation marks. Lastly are booleans. Booleans are used to store true or false conditions. An example of this that is quite simple is if it is stored that 3 is lesser than 5, it will display as true, while if it is displayed that 3 is greater than 5, it will be displayed as false. Then I learned how to manipulate these variables, such as dividing it, adding it, subtracting it, multiplying it, etc. And for adding and subtraction, we use the usual symbols, which are the plus and minus symbols. For the multiplying and dividing in Java, we use the asterisk symbol and the / symbol. And the next operator, which is pretty neat, is the modulo operator, which is used to show the remainder of after you divide a number with another number. For example, for the modulo operator, you use the percentage symbol. An example of this is 15 modulo 3, as 15 can be divided by 3 and it is whole, it will be displayed as 0, as there is no remainders. But for example, we take 15 modulo 4, it will be a different story. 15 modulo 4 would result in 3, as it will divide the 15 by 4 and then take the remainders. For example, the highest point that 4 can get to when multiplying it is below 15 or equal to 15 is 12, and then you just find the difference between 15 and 12, which would be 3. Next up, they are compound operators, which are pretty neat and pretty helpful. what compound operators do is it can help change variables much easier. For example, the value of num cookies, which are the number of cookies we have, is 5. And then you bake 3 more cookies. That compound operators, this would look like num cookies equals num cookies plus 3. To make it easier for us and our hands is we use a compound operator. For example, num cookies plus equals 3. What this will do is it would have the value of num cookies and then you add it with the number and then you change the value of it instantly. So num cookies plus equals 3 will change the value of num cookies from 5 to 8. For example, if we ate 3 cookies, it will be num cookies minus equals 3, which will result in 2 for the value of num cookies. Then I learned about constructor methods, which functions to make an instance variable in a class and help out the main method in identifying things. Then I learned about constructor parameters, which are used to initialize parameters in the method. Here is an example. We have an int and a string, age and name respectively. We put it into the constructor method to help the main method order, arrange, and identify the variables. And that is all for this video. So see you in the next video.